Welcome to Watch It Real. I'm Ira Jersey, the men's general manager at Real Central New Jersey Soccer. I realized we are going to have to, after this weekend, update our intro to the show because we won't be that new. We'll have completed our first season in USL League Two as well as the WPSL. Our women's team on Saturday is going to be playing in the playoffs against Match Fit Academy up in North Jersey. But with me today, we're going to talk a little bit about someone going from the youth ranks to college and then to USL League One and then all the way to Major League Soccer. It's Nkosi Tafari. He is a player on FC Dallas. Nkosi, thanks very much for coming on Watch It Real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to the questions and the interactions that we're going to have. Yeah.
So you grew up not too far from us. So we're in Central Jersey, obviously, therefore our name. You're from not far away. So talk to us a little bit about when you started playing and what your progression from when your kind of first memory of soccer up to, maybe the choice to go to college or do something else soccer related.
So I played most of my soccer on Long Island where I lived with my mother. And it was mainly just a lot of different good memories as a kid. I was just really having a good time, like playing with friends, like early on. I don't remember too much from like my younger days, like maybe when I was 4 or 5. But I remember as I got older, I started like wanting to do more or get more competitive in different ways. And just like progress. Like if our team was winning, go to like different levels. It was divisional soccer back then. I'm not sure what they do now.
And where was this? Was this was in New York somewhere?
This was in Long Island, in Deer Park, New York.
In Deer Park, so I remember playing Deer Park growing up. I'm a Long Island guy myself. Played in the Long Island Junior Soccer Soccer League.
Yes, of course. This was divisional soccer back then. I think it went up to like 7 and then down to 1. And then once you got promoted after Division 1, you would go play Premier and different levels. So then my team was in Division 1 for a good amount of time, and then we would win Division 1, but a lot of the parents or the players didn't really want to step into the next level of Premier, doing more traveling, taking more time out of their schedules. So then that like kind of was like a push and shove thing that I had my parents for, I don't know, maybe a couple of years. I'm not sure how too long, honestly. But then eventually they came to agreements with me and then wanted to move me on to another team to where I could take it more serious, to where like they kind of started not investing more so, but they're just believing in me. They're like, okay, if he's really pushing for this, he really wants to play for a new team or like do more things, then sure, we'll help him do what he wants to do. There's no point in not trying to do this. So I definitely appreciate them for that.
Now, out of curiosity, were you getting any looks at the time from any professional teams? The Red Bulls were in the area, but they were probably the only academy. And from Deer Park to New Jersey, that wasn't going to be the easiest of rides.
Yeah.
So did you ever wind up in a development academy situation?
I never played academy soccer. Actually, that was one people are always normally surprised by that, I guess, because it's so common. Honestly, nowadays, everyone does play academy. And I enjoy it to some extent because it's like, you can still do something special if you don't play academy soccer. People always feel like that's the only route. But at this point in time, I was still pretty young. I was maybe like 13 or 14. I think I was about 14 when I finally left. But never played academy, so I just went to this other team that was playing Premier, and we eventually progressed. But I was still playing high school soccer at the time. I just had the same goal. It was like, I'll just go to college, play soccer there, regardless of wherever I go. I do have to play soccer. It just doesn't matter. And then I'll make the next step and just progress and hope that how it goes well.
So how did you choose college? I take it you played on a team that was scouted, or there were recruits, or did you pursue the college route? Like how did that progression go from the high school and youth ranks up into the college level?
Yeah, for sure. So I wouldn't say high school was too beneficial in sorts of my progression for the spot where I'm at now. But my team, we would go to different like the Disney showcase, different showcases that you would find a lot of college coaches at per se. And then at these different showcases, some coaches would definitely come up to me or email you or talk to your head coach and then get your email address, different things of this. But I didn't have many, or at least not any like big schools. I had 2 or 3 D3 schools, and then that was about it. So then I ended up seeking out UConn through my club coach. He was friends with the UConn head coach, so I asked him. I was like, "Yeah, I'm trying to go here. It's close. I wanted to go there or Syracuse because they were both close and they were both good Division I schools at the time. This is about 2014, 2015. So they ended up going actually to a camp at UConn, like a college showcase camp, and then playing there for like the 5-day, 6-day sleepaway camp. And then after maybe a few days after the camp, I still was like a junior at the time. The assistant coach gave me a call, left like a voicemail and everything, saying that they were like really pleased with how I played. They were looking forward to furthering some talks and communication and things like that, which was really good. That was definitely like the biggest step I had taken to like a school that I wanted to go to and a new level that I thought I could reach.
That's amazing. So out of curiosity, how did those conversations go? Do they ask you about your grades? Do they ask you about, how committed you're going to be to playing? I mean, what's that initial contact like after you or your maybe your mom called the assistant coach back? So what was that like?
After they kind of showed their initial peak of interest, it's you eventually start talking about, once you start talking about grades, you know that they're certainly more interested. They're actually genuinely looking at the thought of bringing you in if it would be an actual possibility. Looking to get you in on a visit, which is really exciting. You could take two, your unofficial and your official. But just going to see the school. They'll show you around the school, take you on a tour, talk to your parents, show you pretty much everything about the school on the official visit. All expenses paid, which is a really, really cool experience, I must say.
And you ultimately did go to UConn, and when you did, you ended up on a pretty decent team with a friend of the show, Jake Norinsky, from Lawrence Township, New Jersey native. Talk about what it was like making the jump from club and high school soccer to college soccer. Like what was the most surprising and challenging things that you went through, making that progression to the college game?
So I still remember my first training at UConn, like the first day of preseason, not any captain's practices or anything like that. But it was like one of the worst days of trainings that I've probably had. Pretty much everything was just moving way too fast for me at the time. I was thinking, but then everything was just moving too fast. My head wouldn't do what my feet were trying to do, or then vice versa. My feet would do something, and then I'd be chasing the ball, but I wouldn't be doing it right. Wouldn't be in the right spots. That was an interesting progression, but it wasn't like, I didn't expect it to be easier. It was something that I was like, okay, this makes sense. It was just like, I definitely remember it being very hard at the time.
Right. So what kind of things did you do as a freshman as you came in to the first school to like get acclimated? Did the upperclassmen, kind of help the younger guys, or was there some kind of friendly or maybe not so friendly competition between the players as you guys were all fighting for, a limited number of spots on certainly maybe not on the total roster, but certainly on the game day kind of roster?
It was definitely competitive atmosphere in training all the time, which is things you love to see. But overall, it was a good team chemistry. Like we would still bond with each other, do different things outside of either training or weights or classes, any of those three. We would get together even just for a meal at the dining hall, or like light things, because a lot of the times we were pretty tired with different stuff, or just get together in the apartments and really hang out and chill. So that was a good part about it, because as you know, everyone is competing while you're in, like, I guess the job of it. You can also know that these are your good friends, and that at the end of the day, nothing's really taken personal, honestly. So that's a good feeling. But the leadership was also pretty good. Jake was one of the captains there, along with another good friend of mine. So just kind of sticking by the mentors and kind of following them.
So two questions, and then I really want to get into when you're first thought about becoming a professional. But when, what did you do to stay fit in the spring and summer? I know in the spring, there's a limited amount of training sessions, and presumably you did fitness stuff like on your own or with the college trainer. But once you got out of school, was there anything that you did to stay fit before the fall season?
Yeah, so the summers for me were kind of based up in between going home late May, early June, and then kind of relaxing for a good bit, just not focusing too much on like the high octane energy and atmosphere of soccer every day. At least from a physical standpoint, I love to watch it. I love to be interactive around it, different YouTube videos or actual soccer that's going on. But then I would always go back early so I could start to get fit again. Just for me, it's easier when I'm in the atmosphere to just be with other guys running, to be playing with other guys, than at home by myself, finding a random field, setting up cones and running. And it's just it's not as enjoyable than just being with my friends and other people that want to do this to get better together. So I would go back like a month early in July when we had to be back in like August, and then just take that month to get my fitness back, get the touches on the ball, and just get back in the mindset.
Right. So when did you first seriously think that you might want to make yourself eligible for the college draft, for the MLS draft? When was that? Was that early in your college career? Was that toward the end, like after you transferred to Seattle and became Defender of the Year for the WAC? Or when did you first have that inclination that, hey, maybe I'm good enough that I might be able to get paid to do this?
So I'll say I'm not even sure how my name ends up in the draft. I'm not too sure on that process, but I would say I definitely took the necessary steps to make sure it was, or to make sure at least I was eligible. But I'd say from the first day of like college, even in high school, I was like, no, I definitely want to be a professional soccer player. This is like the only thing that I want to do, at least for now, until I can achieve this goal and then try something else. But yeah, I would have definitely tried early on to at least be eligible. I always remember that I was trying to get like a Generation Adidas or like a senior guaranteed contract deal coming out, just because it's an even better way of proving like your dominance or your ability, or just getting to that stage quicker. If you get a Generation Adidas deal, you can go out after 2 years, 3 years, or just the 1 year.
Right.
So yeah, after it took me the 5.
Yeah, and then with all of the crazy MLS rules when it comes to things like Generation Adidas, there's cap space and salary cap things and things like that.
Yes.
So we have a question actually from one of our staff members here, asking what your draft day experience was like. So you end up in the draft. I guess your college coach or someone from MLS calls you and says, "Hey, you're going to go. You're going to be eligible for the draft." Firstly, I guess before we get to draft day itself, which I guess by 2019 was something a little bit different, or 2018 when you were drafted. What was that process like? Like, who reached out to you and told you that you were going to be draft eligible, and what did you have to do in order to make all that happen?
So yeah, mostly I think it's just the pool is so large, and most players are certainly probably okay with the idea of being drafted. So then they'll, I guess, talk to the coaches, and then they'll probably put anyone whose name at the university who's eligible, just so the pool stays at that size. But I think the draft was on a Saturday, and it was a Thursday. Before this, I wasn't actually not planning on it, but I didn't think I would be getting drafted up until this Thursday. And then I had a FaceTime call with the Minnesota coach, and then he had told me that I would be drafted, whether it was by them or any team around. But he was like, your name's been around, so like you will get drafted. I'm not sure to who, but like just enjoy the day, things of that nature. So this was on the Thursday, but prior to this, I was pretty clueless, and I was positive. I was hoping it would happen, but I wasn't like certain. If that makes sense.
Now, the year that you were drafted, was that at the United Soccer Coaches Convention, or was it or was it one of the virtual ones?
No, yeah, it was a virtual one.
It was the very first virtual one, because I was at the very last draft in Chicago, and then the next year, the next year they did it virtually. So what? You were at
the 19. You were at the 19 draft.
I think I was at the 19 draft. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. January. Yeah. So January 20 was it that you were?
Yeah, January 9th, 20.
Yeah. So, So how was that process like? Like, were you like just waiting for a phone call or expecting a knock on the door? I mean, what was it like during that virtual draft? And remember, this was a virtual draft before we had all the lockdowns because of COVID, so we weren't quite used to the virtual nature of the world.
Yeah, it was definitely different. I remember I was just sitting in my room in Seattle with a couple of teammates. The draft was on at like noon Eastern, but I was way out East Coast, so it was like 9 a.m. So I just woken up, went and got some breakfast, came back, and we were just waiting, just sitting around waiting for 9. And then the draft comes on. There's different progressions, but we're just watching it on like ESPN Plus. There's no location. There's no set place to go. We're just watching it. And then eventually the picks are going by. I'm seeing a lot of different things, just waiting. Is all I can do. But I was definitely like, okay, let's see what might happen. Minnesota had the 17th. I was like, okay, maybe we land here. We'll see what happens. And then pick 12 comes up. I forget who it was. It might have been Miguel Berry. Don't fact check me on that. But and then I saw the name. And then this is about the time, like I saw that there was like a break and like a minute and a half break in between picks. And then I got a phone call. So I wasn't actually in the room. So I came running back into the room. My friend was like, yo, your phone's ringing. So I answered the phone from an unknown number. I think it was like Dallas, Texas or something. So then I answered it. And I was like, hello? And he was like, hey, congratulations. And then, so like I look at the screen and then they're still on the 13th pick. And I know I haven't been picked yet. So like, I'm like, what? I'm like, wait, what? Like this is just a terrible joke for whoever's actually trying to play this on me. This isn't fun. And then he's like, no, this is Luchi Gonzalez of FC Dallas. Like we just picked you with the 14th pick. And I was like, oh, this is unfortunate. I'm sorry. I'm on the 13th pick. Like my stream is behind. Like totally apologize. How you doing? Like I'm great. How are you? Like, yeah. So it was an interesting experience. I'd say certainly not the normal draft day experience for most people probably, but.
So who was the first person you say? Okay, I have to say. So you're on the phone. Luchi Gonzalez is calling you, right? So the coach of a Major League Soccer team, and he says, "Hey, you're our first pick in the draft this year, or maybe that was their second because they traded."
It was their first. Yeah,
it was their first. Yeah. So you were their first pick in the draft. What's your reaction? And you said that there were some friends there watching with you. Like, did you just tell the room? Did you say, "Hey, mom, come here"? Like what did you do?
My friends were looking at me with exquisitely intriguing faces. Like because I was like sitting there, I was like, yeah, like, hello. And then my face sort of lit up. I was like, oh yeah, no, like, how are you? Like, I'm doing great. Like, this. They didn't know who it was, because they didn't hear like, yeah, this is Luchi Gonzalez, or they didn't hear like FC Dallas or anything. But then they eventually knew. And then as I was on the phone with him, it eventually, like, it popped up on the screen, and then like it was like, oh my god, okay. It was definitely pretty crazy. But yeah, there was but it was just my friends. My parents were still back in New York. Everyone else was pretty much, it was just like my teammates that were with me at Seattle.
And they must have been excited for you, I take it?
Yeah. No, they were definitely pretty excited. It was a good day. After that, we were just hanging out. We went out, got some good food, took some trips around Seattle, did some thrift shopping. But the best part of the day was obviously the draft. How interesting it was, but yeah.
So, so did you show up to preseason? Like, make arrangements with the school to finish virtually, or how did that process work?
So then I ended up going to preseason. They flew me out January 17th. We started January 21st. But I had already graduated from UConn, so then I was working on like a certificate, like master's program at Seattle. So like I do already have my bachelor's degree, and then I have the option to go back and finish the master's if I ever chose. It was in like nonprofit leadership, but yeah, I had finished my bachelor's. But a lot of people, if you do want to finish schooling, the MLS actually has like a program set up to help you finish through a specific university, which is pretty good.
That's great. So you're at preseason, and what was the process like as you were progressing in training? And they, at some point they, I guess they have to make a decision, first team roster, but you ultimately played for North Texas SC, which is FC Dallas's USL League One affiliate. So what was the process like playing for, maybe training with the first team, playing with the second team, or how did that work out for you?
Yeah, so I eventually signed with the first team, but then COVID happened. So like I wasn't allowed to train with the first team all week and then play with the second team on weekends if I wasn't rostered, which is the normal, very viable option that most teams do take when they have a second team, whether a USL Championship or USL League One. That's most MLS affiliates do. But then, so I wasn't getting games up until, and this was happening all the way through, I think, October. And then they put me with like a full-time loan because this was the only thing possible. I couldn't go from the back and forth team. So then they put me on a full-time loan from like October through the rest of the season with North Texas, which was like 6 games. So then I was with them for that.
Yeah. So you tend to be a defensive player, right? Like I mentioned, you were the WAC Defensive Player of the Year, right? So, but you scored your first professional goal with North Texas. So tell us about that experience. I mean, is that something that's ingrained in your memory, or is it like, yeah, it was okay? Like, I scored a goal.
Yeah, so I used to play the 9 a lot back in the day, like a lot, even in at periods at UConn. Like my whole sophomore year, I was playing the 9 before I went in and eventually played center back. And even in club soccer and prior, I would play the 9. So I wasn't like, when I score, yeah, it was definitely like, okay, this is interesting. Like I find it funny sometimes when I score, just because it's like, yeah, I used to play the 9 all the time, and I'm used to scoring. So then when people are like, oh man, like a center back can hit the ball like that, it's like, I suppose so, yes, but I don't know. I used to practice shooting a good amount of times, but that goal was definitely one of my better ones, honestly. So that one was I can't say that's a natural occurrence, honestly.
Yeah, if I had thought about it, I should have gotten that highlight. We should have been showing it right now because it was a pretty nice goal. Because as regular watchers of our show know, I also have a podcast and I watch a lot of USL League One. So that was a memorable goal. In fact, I'm gonna nerd out here just a little bit and show you something on the screen. So I went down to North Texas and went to Frisco.
Right here.
And we're inside the Soccer Hall of Fame. This was a photo taken right after North Texas SC won the USL League One Cup for the first time, beating Greenville Triumph 1-0. John Harkes was not a happy man that day.
Fair enough, honestly, that's understandable.
But yeah, it was quite a good game. Yeah, it was actually, I have to say, Greenville in that game was a little unlucky not to have tied it up and sent it to extra time. So at this point, now we're, into the 2021 season where, I don't know, a third, maybe a little bit more than a third of the way through the season. Where are you now with the team, and what's your kind of personal goals and for the near future, soccer related?
So right now I've been with the first team. I made my debut on June 19th. And then I think I've started maybe 5 games so far this year. So definitely a much better outing so far than last season, certainly because I didn't play 1 game. And now we're, I think, maybe 10 or 11 games. I think we're 11 games in. And I've had the opportunity to play in 5, which is definitely big time. It's a good change. It's positive knowing that you're definitely making positive changes like that. So it's definitely good. I guess goals for the near future, just keep on improving in any way I can, keep on getting better. As I do think I am playing of a decent stature right now. I know that there always is room for improvement, certainly with any level I want to get to. So just keep getting better, and then really start to make a lot better decisions already. Like in terms of consistency, go from like 7 out of 10s to maybe 8 or 9 out of 10s in terms of like completion of things.
So very last question I have, and this is similar to the question I asked you about going from youth and high school to the college game, but differences between going from college to League One and League One to MLS. So what are those jumps like in terms of speed of play or quality of play? Like mentally, how do you prepare for each of those jumps?
Yeah, so I'd say the college game compared to the League One game, there's similarities in style of play. I'd say it's very physical based. And the age range is certainly different, I guess, depending on whatever colleges you play in. There's guys that are a lot older, but there's also guys that are really, really young in in League One. Like there was a guy with North Texas that debuted, and he was just 15. There's a lot more opportunity for youth, so there's a wider variety of different types of soccer. You'll see different generations, guys who are 35 and guys who are potentially 15. That's a 20-year gap. So the soccer is definitely different, but I'd say I played only 7 of the teams. And yeah, it's definitely different from college. I think you just have to be that little bit better. But it prepares you just for that next step as well. So if like after college or the step before MLS or USL Championship, it can definitely prepare you for that. And then MLS is just even more so of a step in physicality and even just a mindset as well of being more professional about mostly everything you do off field for sure.
So did you know the game when you received your MLS debut, did you know you were going to be going in that game like in advance? And if so, like, what's it like? You call all your friends and families or say, hey, I'm going to be in the 18, like make sure you're watching, like how, what was that like for you, and how exciting was that for all of your, friends, family, and fans?
Yeah. So the situation that like preceded it was almost like I probably knew maybe for almost like a week leading up to the game because one of the other center backs was hurt and another one was working on getting his green card currently at the time. So then there was only 2 of us in the team out of the total 4. So
right. So you were it. It was like you were whoever the defensive mid. They put Tanner Tessman back there or something, right?
Yeah. So it was like put an out of position guy in there, so I was like, I just have to play decent in this week of training, do what I've been doing. But honestly, they most likely would be putting me in. So yeah, I knew probably a week leading up to it. But then night before, I texted my sister, and then she told the rest of the family. She loves handling that business, so I told her, and then she told the rest of them. And then I texted a few friends, but a lot of them normally always check to see if I'm in the lineup, if I'm in the 18. I definitely, but a lot of them were just like very surprised or stunned just to like see me starting out of nowhere. I always thought like, I don't know, maybe I would just like in the late game situation but I know as a defender,
debut as a starter instead of a debut off the bench in the 60th minute or something, right? It's got to have a much different feel.
Yeah, it's definitely I definitely preferred it that way instead of getting just thrown into the heat of the game as a defender. It's certainly not preferable because it's definitely an emergency situation. It's never like, all right, you just go out there, get some touches on the ball, enjoy it. It's like, no, it's maybe like 2-1. It's the 85th minute. And they need you to like get in a low block and defend for the last 10 or something.
Right, you go to 3 in the back kind of thing, or 5 in the back.
Yeah. So it's like, no, I get to start the game. I get to ease into the game from the first minute, and it's like way less stressful. And I can create my own energy as the game creates its own energy. So it was a much less stressful process for sure. And I'm glad that was the first one of many that hopefully follow. But yeah. Wow.
And Nkosi Tafari, thank you very much for coming on Watch It Real. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thank you for having me. I love the questions.
And I know we went twice as long as I said we were going to because it was such a great discussion. So really appreciate all of the insights. Yeah. So with that, we'll be back next week. We're going to have one of our USL League 2 players on the show along with a player's agent. So tune in next week and for some of our off-season information. And Nkosi, thanks very much again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Always.